The emergency session of the Galactic Defense Council had been called to address the most serious threat the Alliance had faced in 3 centuries. The Scourge Horde, a biomechanical species that consumed entire star systems, had broken through the Outer Rim defenses and was advancing toward the core worlds at an unprecedented rate. Supreme Admiral Vex Thani of the Altarian fleet looked around the massive war room, taking stock of the forces at his disposal. The holographic displays showed the scale of the response. The Zentaron Republic had committed 12 million soldiers and 3,000 warships. The Crystalline Confederacy offered 15 million warriors and their entire deep space fleet. Even the typically neutral Ethereal Collective had pledged 8 million troops. Then there was Earth's contribution. 15,000 soldiers, scoffed Defense Minister Kolvek of the Gordanian Systems, reading from his datapad. The humans offer 15,000 soldiers. The council chamber erupted in what could charitably be called laughter. Various species expressed their amusement in different ways: the Altarians' harmonic chittering, the Zentarons' subsonic rumbling, the Gordanians' harsh barking sounds. Perhaps they misunderstood the scale of the threat, suggested Admiral Mortex of the Crystalline Navy, her translucent features shimmering with what passed for amusement among her kind. Surely they meant 15 million? No, replied Ambassador Helena Reyes, Earth's representative to the Council. She stood calmly at the human delegation's modest station, seemingly unbothered by the mockery. 15,000. That's our contribution. The laughter grew louder. Supreme Admiral Vex Thani raised a clawed hand for silence. Ambassador Reyes, he said, his multiple vocal cords creating a sound like grinding metal. I mean no disrespect to your species, but the Scourge Horde fields billions of combat units. Your 15,000 would represent approximately 0.2% of our total force. Yes, sir. We're aware of the mathematics. Defense Minister Kolvek leaned forward in his biomechanical chair. Then perhaps Earth should reconsider its commitment? Surely you can spare more than 15,000 soldiers. Ambassador Reyes smiled, and there was something in that expression that made the more perceptive council members pause. Minister, you're operating under the assumption that all soldiers are created equal. They're not. Explain. The 15,000 soldiers we're contributing aren't regular infantry. They're all Special Operations Forces, Green Berets, Navy SEALs, Delta Force, SAS Spetsnaz, and equivalent units from every nation on Earth. The chamber fell quiet as translators worked to convey concepts that didn't exist in most alien military vocabularies. I'm unfamiliar with these designations, admitted Admiral Vex Thani. Special Operations Forces are humans trained for unconventional warfare, Reyes explained. Force multiplication, surgical strikes, psychological operations, and missions that conventional armies can't accomplish. Force multiplication, Admiral Mortex queried. The ability of a small unit to achieve effects far beyond what their numbers would suggest. One of our Special Forces teams can accomplish what might require a full regiment of conventional troops. The alien representatives exchanged glances. The concept seemed absurd. Surely you exaggerate, Kolvek said. Would you like a demonstration? 3 days later, the Scourge Horde's advanced scout fleet, a massive formation of bioships numbering in the thousands, approached the Kepler defense line. The Galactic forces had prepared defensive positions across 17 star systems, with millions of troops and thousands of warships ready to meet the invasion. The human contribution was dispersed so thinly across the battlefront that most commanders forgot they were there. That changed when the Scourge command ship, a massive biological construct the size of a small moon, suddenly went dark. What happened to their flagship? Demanded Admiral Vex Thani from his command vessel. Unknown, sir, replied his tactical officer. All communication from the vessel ceased approximately 4 minutes ago. Are they jamming us? No, sir. The ship appears to be dead. Before anyone could process this information, secondary explosions began rippling through the Scourge fleet. Bioships that had been advancing in perfect formation suddenly turned on each other, their weapon systems apparently malfunctioning. Sir, reported the communications officer, we're receiving a transmission from the human forces. Put it through. A calm voice filled the command deck. Galactic Command. This is Alpha Team. Primary objective complete. The Scourge command and control network has been neutralized. Impossible, Vexthani sputtered. The command ship was surrounded by thousands of escort vessels. How did you? Sir, with respect, that's what we do. We're transmitting targeting data for the disabled vessels. Recommend immediate engagement while their coordination is compromised. Over the next 18 hours, what should have been the most devastating battle in galactic history turned into a methodical cleanup operation. The Scourge fleet, stripped of its command structure and coordination, was systematically destroyed by galactic forces who suddenly found themselves fighting disorganized, leaderless enemies instead of a coordinated invasion force. The war room was silent as reports filtered in. A force that had conquered 17 star systems in 6 months had been effectively neutered in less than a day. How? Admiral Mortex finally asked Ambassador Reyes. 6-man teams, Reyes replied simply. Insertion via stealthcraft, infiltration of key command nodes, surgical elimination of command structures, and exfiltration before anyone knew they were there. 6 humans did what millions of our soldiers couldn't. 6 humans per target, yes. We had 47 teams operating simultaneously across the entire enemy formation. They've been training for this kind of mission for decades. Defense Minister Kolvek's expression had changed from mockery to something approaching awe. Your 15,000 soldiers accomplished more in 18 hours than conventional forces could have managed in months of direct engagement, Reyes finished. That's what special operations forces do. They don't fight wars the way everyone else fights wars. Supreme Admiral Vexthani stared at the tactical display, watching as the last remnants of the Scourge fleet were mopped up by his conventional forces. Ambassador, he said slowly, I believe I owe your species an apology. Not necessary, Admiral, but perhaps next time, don't assume that bigger numbers always mean better results. She gathered her materials and prepared to leave. Oh, and Admiral? Our teams also recovered samples of Scourge biotechnology and detailed intelligence on their breeding worlds. We'll be sharing that with the Council, of course. As the human delegation left the chamber, the alien representatives sat in stunned silence. They'd learned a valuable lesson about humanity. Sometimes, 15,000 of the right humans were worth more than 15 million of the wrong ones. The Galactic Defense Council would never again make assumptions about human military contributions based on numbers alone. They'd discovered that when humans said quality over quantity, they weren't just making excuses for a small army. They were making a promise.